Okay, so to Bishop T.D. Jakes. A fun fact or interesting fact, I am might be I'm not I don't want to say I am, but I might be perceived as anti-pastor. And I'm not saying that I would ever go to the brother's church or be interested in his sermons, but I've seen some clips and I've seen him in interviews. And I think he is well spoken and genuine on certain topics. So I'm not necessarily against this guy as much as some other Israelites may or may not be. But anyway, Bishop T.D. Jakes goes viral after Father's Day sermon in which he said, quote, "If another woman tells me how to be a father, I will flat out scream." So I guess we'll have to just watch it and then maybe I'll read a little of the thing after. Just don't just dive right into it.
Another childless person tells me how to be a father, I'll scream. I know this is going to get me on TikTok for sure, but here I go. If another woman tells me how to be a father, I will open my mouth and flat out scream. You can no more tell me how to be a father than I can tell you how to birth a baby. I don't know nothing about birthing a baby. I don't know nothing about nursing a child. You have to know what you don't know. Shut up being the teacher and just be the wife. How do you know how to be a father? Not only are you not a father, most of you didn't even have.
Jesus. First of all, okay, whoa. Wow.
You ain't have to do all that.
Crazy. I was about to go into a different tangent real quick. I guess I will. I guess I still will. Jesus Christ, I forgot at that point. You know what? I thought of when I'm watching this, and again, I'm not here to come on here. It's not in no way, shape, or form slander any particular churches, but it's so crazy how this is like vastly different from like a church, from an Israelite church, and not necessarily the way, not even the way the guy is speaking, but do y'all ever remember a time in which we're in the middle of a class or something, and a brother might be like being very passionate and going in, and then people will like start clapping
No, no, I don't think
and
that.
cheering.
How? No.
Is that wrong? Is that I don't even know what I'm thinking about. Is that like wrong or weird? Like I just like it's like it's like Sabbath service is like quiet.
I don't want to hear that shit, bro. Like, it's just all performative. This isn't a movie.
Yeah,
I don't
know.
necessarily think it's.
I don't think it makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there could be some like what's the word I'm looking for?
I
Value
don't
in
clap,
like
no
there
cheering.
being there being some like enthusiasm about like it's like feedback. It's like how do you know when a brother's like in his bag? He's like breaking down scriptures like in a well thought out manner.
I think there might be like a like a, like something like that from a few people, but that might be the most.
Oh my god! Look what you get with us.
I don't want to hear none of that extra stuff. No,
You can't even give a quick like you go Pat, you got it.
no.
Fair enough. Well, anyway, regarding the topic at hand, and I guess I'll read a bit of it now. Oops. Sorry. Oops. Bishop T.D. Jakes is going viral after his Father's Day sermon makes rounds on the internet. During his hour and 18 minutes preaching, Jakes says, "If another woman tells me how to be a father, I will flat out scream," while offering a sermon for Father's Day in which he titled it worth the wait?
It's worth the wait.
Oh, got you. Jakes at one point offers up a disclaimer to others saying, trying to speak on his parenting skills. I didn't know his parenting skills were in question. If he says, if another childless person tells me how to be a father, I'll scream. The audience begins to applaud and roar in laughter. Realizing what's about to what he's about to say might end up being dragged, getting him dragged. He acknowledges, I know this is gonna. He definitely acknowledges that this is probably a controversial take. This is probably going to get me on TikTok for sure. But here I go. He continues to insist if another woman tells me how to be a father, I will open my mouth, I'll scream. You can no more tell me how to be a father than I can tell you how to birth a baby. I don't know nothing about birthing a baby. I don't know nothing about nursing a child. You have to know what you don't. You have to know. Oh, you have to know what you don't know. That's true. Shut up, being the teacher, and just be the wife. Jay's commentary in house resulted in more applause and standing ovation from both men and women. Parishioners? How do you say that word? Parishioners?
Parishioners.
Responding to the audience, Jay exclaims, how do you, this was the punchline, how do you know how to be a father? Not only were you not a father, most of you didn't even have a father. And yet you are an expert on how to be. The crowd interjects and more applause, louder roaring. Yeah, that's the interesting part about these situations. Like, I think we a lot of times when you see these, I damn near want to say performances, but speeches or somebody in front of an audience, doing their thing. The audience is like they're like clapping, giving like saying ovations, but then once the content or the clip gets online, then it's where the backlash comes in. So it's like, are you against? So if you're against what he just said, are you also against the hundreds of people that were clapping at him in the audience? But I digress. So yeah, I mean, there's a couple things to kind of attack here. But I guess the uh, the TLDR is he's basically saying that women should what did that one news anchor say to LeBron? Shut up and dribble. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, my question is mainly: is there any level of like truth or worth for the backlash, or do you mostly agree with his point on somebody that's don't have the facilities to be speaking on how to be another thing? I guess in this case being a father, but I guess you could apply it to other things. I'll start with you, Ghost. What do you think?
I think there's some value in what he's saying, or some validity, I should say. And like, there's a lot about being a father that a woman wouldn't understand, and vice versa. There's a lot about being a mother that a father wouldn't understand. It's kind of tough to fully co-sign it because a lot of shitty fathers will use that as an excuse, like they're abusing the son, abusing the daughter, and be like, "Oh, you can't tell me how to be a father." And like, there's some things that if you should never be fully closed off to criticism or comments about how you're going about doing certain things. That doesn't mean you have to listen to all the outside advice that people are giving. But if your wife is telling you something, you don't you shouldn't just 100% ignore her because she's a woman and she's not the father. So to an extent, I think he has a point, because on the flip side, there are a lot of scenarios where a woman, or I'll say even dudes that aren't fathers, men and women that aren't fathers, they'll have a lot to say about certain parenting technique where they don't. I mean, until you get a kid, you don't get it. So again, I won't give him the full cosign, but to an extent, he does have a point.
So that's definitely a basic. And one thing you're saying that I thought of before is that so people will kind of espouse this, like, if you're not a parent, you shouldn't you can't really speak to it. But I think, and you guys can correct me if it is a valid response. What about having a child makes you more equipped to be a parent? And
So
what I mean by that is, we acknowledge that nothing physically, I guess, okay, it's not for women. Disregard that. Nothing inherently mentally changes when a baby is born that has your genes. We
False.
acknowledge that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
False.
Again, I'm not saying full stop that if you
All right,
don't.
he wants to get in. Give us the quick response,
Um,
or do you want to hold off until you get to you?
I'll, mm, I'll just say the main fundamental difference is that you now have this responsibility over this child. You now have seen this child from its very first moment,
Okay,
and you see the
we,
growth of the child, and there is something in that that I do believe fundamentally mentally changes the parents, or can, and most often does, if
I
they're good
mean,
parents.
I we get that, but what Quest is saying is like your your DNA isn't changing once you become a parent.
The
Like it,
knowledge, the knowledge
I
and
said
understanding,
mentally.
the knowledge and understanding that you have doesn't increase
It's
when just by the child being born.
I'm saying there's a mental transformation.
yeah, I
Yes.
mean, it
I'm
changes
s-
you,
I'm
but
s- I'm
again, it,
saying there isn't.
Yeah, I'm saying there is. So continue. We
Yeah,
can
we'll
talk about
continue.
it
well,
later.
that point aside, because I guess that's not really the gist of what I was trying to convey. But I'm not even saying that if you don't have a child, then you can't give advice on being a parent. But it's more so, I guess, if you're talking about your child in particular, that you're raised in a certain way, or you're and say you're punishing them for they were doing something they weren't supposed to be. They're on punishment for a couple weeks, and someone that isn't involved in the situation is telling you how you should or shouldn't be disciplining them. That's where I think it really comes into play. In that you're right, Quest, in that nothing. Well, I don't even want to say that. Nothing physically really. It, nothing about your biology changes once you become a parent. There is a mental change. I do agree with Wes on that, but there isn't something that automatically kicks in a parenting gene that now
That's
you're
exactly what I
a
was going to
hundred
say.
percent more adequate at being a parent versus before. There's nothing like that, but through the process of raising the child, you gain the experience, and you have more knowledge of how to handle certain situations, especially if you're an older parent that's already raised children for, where it's completely different than if you're on the outside looking in and you haven't done it before. So that's where I think he has some validity. But again, that's not even saying that if you're a parent of 40 years and someone that doesn't have any kids is mentioning something, that you can't listen, because that's not the case at all. But you got to be kind of selective, and some parents are not good at that. Granted, but it's just the way it is.
And I definitely agree with your point. Actually, strongly agree with your point to the when you say you do like learn or become a better parent for your child. I think that's definitely true. I think it's not going to be anyone that's better equipped to speak. Provided you're doing the I think a parent should be doing. But there's no one that's going to be better equipped to tell you how to raise your child than you. Um, yeah, I thought that was a
That's
good
what he's
point.
talking about.
Uh,
Nah,
no,
that's why I'm not fully
in
co-signing
in
it.
the abstract, he's just simply saying if I mean he kind of literally says in some of the other verbiage he used when he said if you're not a father, you can't give me any input on being a father any
That's
more
not what
than
he said. I'll make my point when it comes to me. But go ahead.
do you think a person listening to this will take away that he's specifically just talking about himself and not in general?
He said to tell me how to be a father. He's not.
That doesn't answer my question. Do you think
I That's what I took it to be. But go ahead.
you think he's doing this entire Father's Day sermon just to speak on his parenting?
No, I mean other people shouldn't tell other people how to be fathers either to their
So
own child. What
so
do
it's
you?
a in general thing.
Yeah, for everyone's specific child.
But that's not true though.
What do you mean?
That that's not okay. So if
You admitted. Wait, hold on. You
the
admitted that a normal parent
yes
knows their own
Yes.
kid and should be
But
able
if
to
you
parent their
truly
own.
believe it in all cases, then you would agree with this with the you would agree that in general, nobody that is not applicable to for X can tell somebody that is applicable for or somebody that's not applicable for Y cannot tell somebody that's not applicable for X.
Maybe, I,
Okay, so if you
bro.
do, claim it. There's nothing wrong with
No,
that.
I don't understand. I don't understand how you put it. But my point is, in every case, if you're speaking to an individual about their child, it's it's always that person and their child. I don't understand. It's not that
In
person
every
and somebody
case.
else's child.
In every
You're not.
case.
Yeah.
I don't even know if
TD
you
Jakes is talking about him and his
I
children.
don't even know if
I
you
And
really don't agree with
you
that.
you
wait,
keep
what?
Not agree with
you
that.
keep
I
trying to
don't. Maybe I
you
don't
keep trying
understand.
to
It's
focusing on him, but I do not agree or think that like every literal listener listening to this thinks he's going on. I mean, it's just wrong to say he's going on whole sermon just about people talking about him. He's
no. My point.
he's definitely broadening it to be like, hey, if you're
From a
not
perspective of a man in general.
Yes, you shouldn't tell any individual person how to parent. Or okay, I'm broadening it, but if you don't, you shouldn't be telling any individual other person how to parent their child, especially if you don't have a child, especially
okay,
if you're not a
okay.
man
I'm glad you reiterate.
for father. Or whatever.
I'm glad you reiterated that. I think we agree on that point. I think
Okay,
that
that's what I'm saying.
okay, I guess. Well, the difference is while we agree that you a person thinking that they can are better equipped to tell somebody how to raise their own kid is different from having the mentality that unless you are a father already, unless you are a male, that you shouldn't even have any like thoughts towards this. Like you're not even equipped to have
Yeah.
any
No,
input on that.
so I'll speak now.
Which is arguably the moral of the story of what he's this sermon.
Yeah, but I will play semantics a little bit and note that he said, "You can't tell me how to be a father." Which to me, he's talking about the idea that someone is going to tell him the patterns of fatherhood that he should take as a father. They're going to tell him you shouldn't do this way or you shouldn't do that way as a condition for fatherhood, as a condition for how you parent your child. Overall, kind of like a blanket statement. Now, the particulars of a specific instance, let's say, if I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but I think if I were to take this and I'm looking at it as if I was going to get something useful out of this for myself, this is how I would look at it. Is that if, let's say, the mother or if the person without a child said something about a particular instance of something I did that would not and I could recognize, okay, he's saying I was a little too harsh. Maybe I should consider that, or I should take this information. Blah blah blah. That's one thing. But if someone is telling someone blankethood, fatherhood is this, you should do this if you're a father. Blah blah blah. That's where I think the frustration and the BS comes in because, as he said, and as I agree, if you're not a father, or if you're not,
Don't
if you don't have children, then you can't tell someone how to be a father. What
don't you
is
think it would be
good?
the don't you think it would be the opposite?
What do you mean?
Don't don't you think that if somebody like say you had a child and somebody saw how you how you I don't want to use like specific physical things that people probably have good information on. Like, people like you were saying, like some of the patterns that you did or some of the habits that you did, they were commenting on those. Don't you think that would be a bit stranger than if you were just having a random conversation with somebody and they say, "Yeah, fathers should generally do this time of day or generally do this." Don't you think the general information that somebody like imposes on like a specific group is a bit more like not much of an issue compared to somebody specifically telling you how to manage your children.
No, I mean, I'm saying it could still be about you and your children, but they're saying you shouldn't do this with your children ever, or you should do this with your children all the time, type of thing. Like as a rule, this is fatherhood. This is how you are a father. This is how you should be a father. This is how you should conduct yourself. You should never this. You should never that as a father.
And
Like
you're
defining. I'm saying defining the role.
you're saying only fathers should be able to speak to that.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I think that's the point he's trying to get across. If someone is going to give him information like that, it would best come from a father. I think that's what he's trying to say. And on the flip side, of course, he's saying that mothers and people without children, there's things that they're not going to know about fatherhood. There's things that they're not going to understand um about how to raise a child as a father, being a father, and that's fine. They have, the mothers have their roles, and there's things that a man is not going to know about raising a child as as a mother. So that, I mean, it's not, it's not some ego thing or anything like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be. As I said, I'm looking into this as I would interpret it to get something positive out of it. But but yeah, I think it's just that. I think, and as I said, maybe I'm reading it too generously, but
No,
I
no,
think
I
I
kind
think
of
there is
I was kind
something
of
to how
pushing
to
back.
be.
I was kind of pushing back, but I mean, I think at the root of it, I think we are here to kind of get our own how we interpret it. So it's nothing to. I'm not trying to be dismissive of that. Um, but at the same time, I don't know if we're fully aligned with everything here, but maybe we'll get there. Come on in here, you Ace. What do you think? Do you think these statements do warrant some level of backlash, or do you think he's for the most part pretty much on point? Wait, is Ace there?
Probably forgot he's
Sorry, I
muted.
muted myself.
Oh,
My bad. I was talking too.
holy
uh,
shite!
no, no, no. Just now. I wasn't trying to talk the whole time.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, I was just gonna say. My immediate thought was agreement with him, but Ghost did make a good point that um, it's not. I don't 100% agree in that a father, like a father, should be open to listening to the input of others. Um, I guess it could get to the point where it becomes um it becomes egregious. Um, but I'm just thinking in terms of a father and a mother. Um, the mother, I think the mother's input is extremely valuable and should definitely be considered in um in a father trying to raise a child. It's just more information for them to um to like account for that they may not have come up with themselves. As far as the final say, I think yeah, the father has the final say as to whether they're going to implement that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't think more information can inherently be a bad thing. Again, especially if it's coming from the mother who has the best interest of your child in mind.
exactly.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I could definitely understand frustration if a person or people outside of your household are trying to give you advice. And again, if it's not fathers, if it's not people that have children, um, they just, I mean, just in general, there's no experience um of or
They
there's no
don't
way you can
they
have
don't see
full
the
understanding of
yeah
his
they don't see the full
experience.
pictures of what you're going through.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So I
and
can understand again and frustrated.
I guess going back to something like Wes was saying, like I will acknowledge the fact that while this I think in general is meant for a broader purpose, this probably like 99% sure did come from somebody from the experience that he probably had. Like he's probably speaking from his personal experiences about like, all right, well, people are
He
you're
was
trying to
fed up
have
with something.
yeah, people are trying to weigh in on my situation, but like you're not a father or you're not a male or whatever the case may be. Although to kind of pick at some of the things he specifically said, do we really equate, you know, fatherhood or being in a certain like authoritative position to a literal like physiological act, like how to birth a baby.
No, if he had said being a mother, it would kind of have
Right.
been a better
That's
equivalent.
the equal. That's the equal. He's
Yeah,
a. I can take it to
I
birth a
mean,
Um,
baby.
in a
I get
certain,
the intent. Like
yeah,
the intent, I think was the same. Maybe it's just the wording. But I mean, he's preaching a sermon. Is probably just like a whatever's at the top of his head. But it
yeah,
would have been better if he had said being a mother. But it is what it is.
yeah. I mean, and I think from the standpoint of having a role, a man having a role, a woman having a role, um, you can take them to be. I don't know. Maybe not that different, but like, yes, we can understand intellectually uh certain things, but if it's not your position, like it's not your role to play. It's it can stand in stark contrast. I understand the significance of what he's trying to say.
And then
Like
also,
as much as you can, relate to somebody, it's like anything. If you've never been in somebody else's shoes, you can't. I mean, you can't. You can only go so far.
but we also acknowledge like an outside perspective can sometimes be beneficial
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, I'm just
and
addressing the point where
help us
what's
see
the
things that we didn't before.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm addressing the point of how different the two things, as far as being able to relate to childbirth versus being a father. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little bit of exaggeration, but
And then I guess kind of in a similar vein of like if you haven't lived it, how can you speak on it? But then what do we think of that last take real quick? Uh, how do you know how to be a father? Not only are you not a father, most of you didn't even have
He was doing
I
pretty
have
good.
nothing to say. I
He
have
just
nothing to
had
say
to
about
stop
that.
at the end. Like he didn't have to add that. That was necessary.
Um,
Okay, but I mean, going to the
it is what it
overall,
is.
Jesus Christ, going on to the overall like theme of all this. I mean, and I don't think anyone here would co-sign the fact that somebody that didn't grow up with a father can't grow up and I was gonna say manifest. They can't put the work in for themselves to be a competent, a great father, right?
Of
No,
course.
I don't.
No, he's still talking about people that aren't fathers when he said that.
Right.
But
So
honestly, I wouldn't even say that's accurate because if you kind of know what you're missing to an extent, not the full extent, but you have an idea of if you did have a father, then what you would have appreciated.
this is true.
This
You can
reminds me of something, and I can't figure out the analogy, but just I don't know. I'm of the yes. You may have informed opinions. Yes, um you may be right. You may have some wisdom that you've gained over the years, but I see the value in just waiting until you become a father to relate to fathers.
You know what's
Eh,
interesting? Sorry to cut you
yeah,
off. Don't these things contrast? Like if you truly believe that a person that didn't have a father is less equipped to speak on being a father, then how are you of the belief that once you have a child, you automatically become a better father? Like,
there's no contradiction.
huh?
Because I said there's no contradiction because you can learn.
Hold on. I don't say there's no contradiction. Again,
All right, go ahead.
you take an example: a guy that didn't have a father growing up, he becomes a father. Are we saying that this guy's well equipped to be a good father?
It depends. I feel like there's factors that are not contradictory that can play into him being a good father, which are who are his influences, who are the father figures or the fathers that he has
Let's
as
say there was
examples.
let's say there was zero father figures.
Okay, then he's got a lot of work to do.
Okay, so we can acknowledge that being a literally just being a father by the biological definition or sense of it doesn't inherently hold a lot of weight or
Um,
hold. It's not the contributing factor.
it, so he can either not have any examples not have any references and be a bad father or have a rough time of it, or he can seek out those examples, or he can learn by trial and error. But at what point? I mean, at what point does it disadvantage him? Like I don't. He's still him still having a
I mean,
child still puts him.
You tell me, what is the disadvantage of not having the father in the first place, and then speaking on fatherhood?
What?
You're
If
saying
you've
that,
never seen an example of it,
yeah, you're saying that what is the disadvantage of being a new father, and now your level of being equipped to to speak on fatherhood or to be a father. You're right. Is
yeah,
that what I
I'm
heard?
saying you're still by being a father now, you have to wrestle with things that you didn't have to wrestle with before you were a father. So
Okay.
by its very nature, you have to do something.
Okay.
So
Okay.
good or
Fair.
bad,
Fair enough. So
I'm,
okay.
I'm saying it doesn't disadvantage you. That's what I meant to say. There is an advantage because you're now a father. You have to wrestle with these things.
All right. All right. So acknowledge that. So now I'm putting it to the other circumstance. So what is the disadvantage of not having a fatherhood, and why would that guy not having a father in your life? Why would that person be less equipped to be able to speak on fatherhood?
So if you don't have a father and you don't have children, your relationship with fatherhood is basically non-existent.
Yeah, nice. Okay, yeah, yeah.
So that makes it kind of hard to then have
Fair
any.
enough. The circumstances aren't one to one if you just move the relation. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, obviously it was just Father's Day recently, and obviously, I mean, just throughout human history, this is always going to be. I mean, probably more so now in this day and age of social media, and the fact that these things are broadcasted in front of millions of people are going to have an opinion when it comes to fatherhood and parenthood, or things of that nature. I don't know. It's always interesting when I hear the conversations because while I think in general, I think everyone was of the belief that the person that has experience with that in that field or that whatever that situation is um, should be the one to speak on those things. I I think it's just my like scriptural brain of seeing like prophets and disciples and so on and so forth that they didn't have the experience the this issue or the sin or the whatever the circumstance to be able to give the correct answer on how you go about it. I think you we learn I I think learning about the subject matter can have like sometimes equal value to that to being that like that being in that field. Like okay, so would we do we truly not view a person that has a person that became a father, a person that had a child, to a person who literally dedicated their a good portion of their life to studying like children, how to properly raise children, view not only view different studies but also like do some level of realistic work. Maybe you have like younger brothers, or maybe you have younger siblings, or just you do certain things that best prepare yourself to be a father. Do we really view those as like not equal?
No, I don't view them as equal. I figured out what it is. It's like yeah, I mean it is like the theoretical versus the practical. It's like reading a lot about woodworking before and not ever having built anything. Like it's wild to think that you know how it feels to hold the tool in your hand. Like it's wild to think that you have the relationship with the work that you just don't have.
Y'all all agree with that, Ace and Go, that practical is just far superior than theoretical.
I didn't say superior. I'm just saying different.
Okay, well, which that's what I'm trying to pin it to. I'm not literally saying when I talk about equal. I'm not literally trying to say whether they have anything to do with each other. I'm not. I'm trying to say is one better than the other.
I
That's a
mean,
weird
yeah,
dichotomy, but go ahead.
it's
I
not.
mean, we put things better and better or worse. That's not a
What do
whole.
you mean? I mean, what do you what is the what makes one better or worse? The actual rearing of a child? Because if that's the case, then the one who actually has the child is more important. I don't know. Like I don't.
Okay, so I'm
What is
asking,
your metric?
I'm asking, do y'all believe that is the practical always gonna be better than the theoretical?
I mean, it depends on what your metric is for saying better or worse.
I, I don't understand how we even have to back and forth about how you view a somebody who would do a better job at the thing.
You're saying okay, so you're saying will the person with the actual child do a better job than the person without the child, but
I'm
has the
asking you, do you believe that?
No, I'm saying I'm asking you if that's what you're asking right now because I'm clarifying.
Yes. And without being rude, I don't understand how there was any level of what
The
else would it be.
no, you just kept saying better, but it doesn't make sense because once the person without the child who had all the book smarts has the child and starts to rear the child, then
Kind of
they're gonna have the experience. So I don't understand.
yeah,
It kind of nullifies
kind
itself.
of doesn't hurt.
Which one will be better
That's
in
like
the
it's like asking this question. Like it's like asking if somebody is book smart about raising a child, is it better than somebody who didn't do any research?
yes.
Is not yeah the
That
way
doesn't
I
make
would have
sense. I
phrased the
mean,
question.
probably.
So you agree with what I saying? What I'm saying?
Once you start raising the child, you are a father. I don't understand. So you're
That's like asking if you go to a new job to be an engineer, where the engineering job is going to teach you a lot of stuff that you didn't learn in school, but you're still going to have to learn it regardless. Is it better if it's a new hire that has no prior schooling, or if it's a new hire that does have schooling?
yeah.
It, if the job will entail literally taking what you learn and applying it, then I would argue the person that has the more training or that did more study in the beginning will do fare better. Yes.
Yes, but what does that have to do with the situation at hand? If you do research before you become a father, yeah, you'll probably be a better father than if you didn't
So
do
we
the research.
agree. Just like the meme.
I think
Yeah,
a
but if
better
you have a
a better
child, you're still
equivalency would
better than not having a child. I don't, no matter what, research or not.
I think the better equivalency would be if there was an unrelated child. There's two guys, one that's done research and has schooling and all that, and a father that doesn't have any of that schooling and research.
Oh, but he already raised kids?
Yeah, but he's already raised kids, and they're both going into it fresh with a child that's like what I don't know, 5 years old that hasn't met either of them before. Who's gonna do better? I think that.
Uh, yeah, I can't put a clear cut
The thing is, in my mind,
answer on that one.
that hypothetical is in relation to what I'm saying. I think it like, I guess maybe we were
Yeah,
stuck.
yeah, no,
I guess we
unless
were stuck on who's like where's this child coming from and how long are we talking about the father that had the experience versus the guy that was studying.
yeah, and once you get a child, you're a father. So, but if the first child of the father, are we saying that it was a successful? I mean, the kid's not a menace. I
I mean, you guys tell me. Do you value the experience versus the theoretical? I'm not really understanding
Well,
how we haven't answered the question yet.
I would okay.
experience
Let's
for
put
me.
it this way: if for whatever yeah, for whatever reason I had to, God forbid, give up my child, I would give it to a person who already had kids before, and
Okay,
the kid is okay.
got you.
Like
Well,
But
you
wait,
know,
do you know anything about how they
that's what I'm
raise
saying.
it before?
If the father
Or
had a successful, as long as the kid's not a
this could
menace,
be like the worst father
yeah,
ever.
I don't think we can do that. I think we have to do
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you just take the most blanket
yeah.
a guy that had some experience with raising a kid versus a guy that didn't, but he is well versed on children and raising children and how to best support a child. You say okay, you take the guy with the experience. What do you say goes?
If I can't interview either of them or do a check
No,
in,
you can't do any of this caveat shit.
the guy with experience,
Okay, Ace.
I hope that he didn't raise a.
I'll go theoretical.
Okay, okay. All right, all right. Um, Yeah, obviously, no, I don't know if it's obvious because I don't know if we fully wholly agree on everything here, but we definitely do agree with the base of like, don't just come in and be telling people how to raise their kids. Nobody wants that or is interested in that. Obviously, if you have some abstract feedback, I guess maybe some of y'all were even saying y'all would be up to receiving feedback when it comes to y'all kids too. But I think there's a way in which you convey your input or your thoughts on certain matters. Because I think even if you are of the belief that somebody with theoretical knowledge or someone that studied a lot or vicariously has some experience, I don't think there's any serious scenario in life where like somebody's coming in, like again kind of going to that example of like a new engineer coming into a job. If he comes up to an engineer that's been in the field for like 30 years plus, the old OG is not gonna care what what he has to say, for better or for worse, I suppose. And I think that's applicable for different practices, different experiences in life. Um, and even me, playing both sides and in some cases thinking, seeing the value in like studying and try to being as versed as something as possible. Um, I don't want to like minimalize how much experience does for a person. Like I would say like the difference between being new to being not being new to it, being true to it. Like experience is wholly valuable, and I think in most cases it is going to trump the person that thinks they know a lot about the subject matter. Um, but yeah, so to TD Jakes, I got no spoke with there, brother. But if there's nothing else, we can move on to the the last joint, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. All right.